Here's what I want to say to you. First and foremost, my name's Denny, and I work at KVEC. This is my boss, Brenda. We work every day together. We do a lot of IEP review. You come to listen about IEP components. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but we're going to talk a lot about instruction. And one of the things I want to say to you is the reason I closed that door and started at 10:25 is you don't have any time to waste. You do not have, I'm not saying you as a person don't have any time to waste. I'm talking in your classrooms, you don't have any time to waste. Okay? How many of you work with students with disabilities? Show of hands. Most of you, right? About half or more work with students with disabilities. How many of you work with students that have learning differences? That gets about, we're up to about 9 out of 10 now. Yeah, that's 90%. That's a pretty good percentage, right? If you're shooting free throws, right? So what I'm going to say to you is, back to my first thought, we don't have any time to waste. The research is very strong about how much practice it takes to get kids better. Okay? Now, I want you to think of yourself as a paraprofessional, but I also want you to think of yourself as a teacher. Okay? And I want you to think of yourself as someone that can create tremendous relationships with students. Okay? I want you to think of yourself as someone that is key for a student that might not have a key. Students with disabilities, students with learning differences, they need every practice turn they can get. Any human endeavor, anything that you've ever done, whether it be bowling, golfing, cooking, cleaning the house, washing the car, it only gets better with experience and practice. And then, what else has to accompany practice in order for it to be effective? What else has to be? What else has to go with practice? What do you think? What else has to go with practice before it becomes effective? Implementation. Okay. And then, what if I am practicing free throw shooting? I'm an old basketball coach. What if I'm practicing free throw shooting? You've already heard this story. You know the answer. You can tell it. What if I'm practicing free throw shooting, but I'm doing it the wrong way? I'm implementing. I'm practicing. But I'm turning my hand that way. The goal's right there. What's going to happen? I'm going to get worse. I'm not getting any better. So I need someone in there to tell me that knows what's going on with free throw shooting, right? So you guys need to know what's going on with IEPs so you can help implement them. Come on in. We're just now getting started. Sorry. No, you're fine. You're right on time. You got 22 seconds. Now, again, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Brenda, a little bit about myself, just so you'll know, and you'll have a new friend or two. Brenda is the former director at Brenda County Schools. She spent the last 44 years working with students with disabilities. She's got more experience, and more know-how, and more knowledge than anybody I know in the state when it comes to how we work with students with disabilities. Not just how you write an IEP, or components of an IEP, but how you work with students with disabilities, okay? And how practical that can be, okay? She's been at the co-op for the last 20 years. When I was a director, big job. Y'all have directors? Special needs instructional assistants have directors, right? You have instructional supervisors that oversee what you do. Hard jobs, okay? Hard jobs. But not any harder than the job you have, right? Not any harder. It's just a hard job both ways. So have mutual respect and do that. Hopefully you have administrators that are making decisions that are based on what's best for kids, okay? And if you're in this business to just get by, you're going to be really an unhappy camper after about a year because it gets really boring. You're just there for yourself. You want the best schedule, and you don't want to work with certain kids, and you try to manipulate things, and you try to pressure people to change things, and You live for your breaks. You know what I'm talking about? But if you really truly are in this for the kids, that's when you can make a difference. And that's what we're after. That's what Brenda's done for 44 years. I won't say that I've always done that, because I had to be mentored. I had to be shown. At one time in my life, basketball coaching was much more important than anything I was doing, right? But those kids were important on that basketball team. So I learned a little bit about teaching. I'm just being honest, but I've been in. This is my 38th year. You can look at that and you say, well, that doesn't add up because Brenda looks a lot younger than me. So I'm 38 years in special ed, special education, exceptional children, whatever you want to call it. The majority of the time, I've been at KVEC as a consultant. And what we do on a daily basis is we look at, you see those folders that have all the information about special need kids, due process folder. We look at those due process folders and we say, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong, this is right. It's real exciting work, okay? Hopefully it makes a difference because we want you guys to kind of understand the IEP so that you can help your teachers implement those IEPs, right? That's what we're after. The long game is student outcomes. Can we get kids better? Can we help kids get better? And so, like I said, I spent 10 years in the classroom. How many of you work with FMD students? By show of hands. Okay. We get a few of those, right? 10 years I spent in the classroom. 2 years of that I worked with FMD students. And it was 2 of the most rewarding years of the 38 that I ever spent. Okay. We can talk about IEPs in a minute. Okay. Brenda's got a story or two herself.
Oh my goodness. Well, I was in the TMH unit at that time. That's what it was called.
Do you guys remember that, any of you? It was called Trainable Mentally Handicapped. Now, I've taken that language out of the law. We can't even say those words anymore, right? But we're saying it here, but you can't say them in the schools, right?
For about 6 years, what I did was I actually started my own little curriculum with all of my children. I had 10 students. I taught them to swim, all of them to swim but one. We had a pool in our school, and I asked the principal if we could do that, and we had the PE teacher on her planning time actually went in the water with me. So we taught them how to swim, except one, and we finally got him in the water to blow bubbles. But we got that done. But anyhow, I did that for 6 years, and then they come to me and said, we're going to have to move you to an EBD unit. We have to start an EBD unit because nobody's certified but you. I said, what?
You know what that is, right? Those behavior students.
And I loved my kids. I didn't want to leave them. I cried. Oh, it was horrible. And I said, any special ed teacher can teach EBD, not just me. LBD. The B in that word is behavior. But anyway, I guess they wanted me because I had such a great relationship with my kids, and we had fun.
That's the key word. Remember that relationship.
And their parents. With their parents. It was great. And I said, okay. So it was okay, or I'd probably find me another job somewhere else. But so I did. But I missed my youngins. I really did. And I taught the EBD unit. I taught that for 4 years. And then the 9 years I was in the high school, and I taught LBD and MD students. So for 19 years I actually taught school, and in 6 years I was the director. And then I came to KVEC there. And then I was kind of glad that I went, but then it was, it's disheartening because I love the kids. You just fall in love with them. That's just all you do. I treat them like they were my own. And I tell the parents that. And some of the parents was all for it. They really, and there's just a few that, they don't want you, they don't have a rapport anyway. So, and you know how that goes, because you don't have to deal with that. But at KVEC, I knew that I could try to make a difference with administration, with teachers, with aides, and with students. I had it all. I could do it all. Whereas in the classroom, I was with my students, and we didn't get to go out, into the regular classrooms. We did co-teaching and those types of things back in the day. We actually started it there. I was the one that asked that we do that because I felt like I had kids that could go into the classroom and out at resource room and do the work if I was in there with them. And we got to do that. So that started that in Brenda County a little bit. But I love it. I love education, or I wouldn't be here today. I was up at 3 o'clock this morning. I'm excited, because you all are here. And I'm hoping you all take advantage of the universities that are out there, especially if you all have already got some credits. There's new ways of going into college now, not even having to go to college, online classes, and you can work, and your work experience goes along with that. So, talk to them, and if you're interested, especially you young folks.
Okay, can you all do something for me? Because I just want you to do something, okay? I want you to respond. Okay, take a piece of paper in your little notepad if you don't care, and fold it in like, I'll demonstrate. Just kind of fold it kind of long ways like that. Yeah, hot dog style, and see if it'll stand up, and put your name on the front of it. Okay, put your name on the front so I can call you by name when I call on you here. So, here's what we're going to talk about. First and foremost, and we talked a little bit about this last time, so I'm going to hit that real quick, okay? Because I want everybody to get it, in case you don't come to the understanding disabilities piece. When you're working with students, the most important thing in the classroom, the reason they're there, is learning, right? It's learning. And so, when I'm teaching my college class over at Alice Lloyd in the spring, I have general education teachers, I tell them all about special ed. I start like this. You guys echo me, okay? Echo me here. The most important thing in school is learning. Okay, let's try it one more time. Right after I say school, you say learning, right? Most important thing in school is
learning.
And the most important thing in school is
learning.
And the most important thing in school is
learning.
And the most important thing in the school is this to change. More learning. Okay, you got it? So that's why you're there. Okay, we go back through that. Most important thing in school is
learning.
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 Now, how do we get them to learn? The hard part is what we're doing with them, okay? And it starts with relationships. It starts with communication. It starts with relationships. 20 years we've been working together. 20 years. It starts with communication. When Brenda used to come over and tell me all the things that I was doing wrong as a director, kidding. When Brenda would come over and guide me and spend the entire day, and I knew she had an hour and a half drive back to Jackson, and she was still there at 4:30 trying to help me, and she created a relationship. Okay? She was what I needed her to be when I needed her to be it. Okay? And that's what you got to do for your students. That's what you have to be. Now here's the thing. How many of you work in elementary schools where the little fellas come in and they come to you from less than advantaged areas? Huh? Does poverty touch us in this state? In rural areas, it does, doesn't it? It does everywhere. It's in the urban areas, it's everywhere. So on Maslow, he has a hierarchy of needs. And it's a triangle, and down at the base is the basic needs of a human being. What are they? I need, what do you have to live? Food, shelter, water, clothing, care, right? Guess what you can't do if any of those things are out of order? You can't learn, right? So we got to meet all those needs first. So when those little kids show up to you, the first thing you can do is be K. kind. Be kind. They may smell like a skunk, but you still gotta find a way to be kind. I always said when I taught FMD, the first thing I needed so I could function was some spray. You don't have to gag, right? You can get around that. You have to value the people that you work with, and those little fellas can't help it in lots of ways, right? So what I'm saying to you, first things first, take care of that. Then, what's the next rung up that ladder? You want to guess? Those little fellas, after you take care of their bellies, and their cleanliness, and their care, and their safety, and they feel safe, they're not worried about somebody smacking them around, whatnot, then the next thing is they want to belong. What's the first thing we do with special needs kids? We tell them how bad they are, don't we? In lots of ways, we tell them how. We say, you can't do this, or you can't do that. I want you to think about that Coke can being all the way full with each kid that you work with, okay? I know sometimes it's hard. I know sometimes they provide you with challenges, and you have a hard time even liking them sometimes because they can be really, really hard to deal with, can't they? I've been there, okay? I've been in the FMD classroom, okay? So I understand the hard job you have, but I want you to think next is you got to make them feel like they belong to be in that classroom, okay? They have to belong. Just because they have an IEP goal, which is our topic, I'm getting to it, okay? Getting to it. Just because they have an IEP goal doesn't make them any less. You see where I'm going with that? They have to, you've got to minimize them immediately feeling like they're in a deficit situation. Okay? Next on that rung is communication. Now let's break communication down for a second. Brenda and I look at FMD folders all the time, and it amazes me sometimes that special ed teachers do not put that as a priority. Students are on alternate assessment, but we have no communication goals. It's a no-no. That's an IEP no-no. The first thing you as an instructional assistant ought to ask your teacher that you're working with is, does this student have difficulties with communication? Why? Communication is going to help that bottom rung. They can tell you they're hungry. They can tell you they're sick. They can tell you they're thirsty. They can tell you that somebody beat on them. You see what I'm saying? You can, but you can't, unless you can communicate with them, you can't know that. And then you can't teach them. And what's the most important thing about school? Learning, right? So if we can't get to the learning, we got to get through all that stuff to get to the learning part. Okay? Super, super important that you ask that question. Do they have communication difficulties? Because they can't have meaningful relationships. They can't belong. They can't get their basic needs met. You see how that fits together? And then the last thing is they can't get access to the curriculum. Okay? They cannot access what you're trying to teach because you can't communicate with them. So you got to get that. That's the most basic form of education, is teaching them to communicate with you and with others. Now they can have meaningful relationships. Now they can be part of the group. Now they can tell you when they hurt, when they're hungry, when they're sick, when they're tired. And now you can teach them. Okay? Now we can talk about IEPs. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Because you need to think, you need to run that through your mind. Every time you start to work with a new student, does he understand? Communication's understanding too. It's receptive. Because a lot of times you think they're getting it. You think they know what the targets are. And they don't. It's not clear enough for them. They don't understand the language. Right? So you have to break it down for them. As the instructional assistant, as the teacher, as the person in charge, you're in charge of that small group, you've got to figure that out. Okay? You got to make sure you know that. Super important. Brenda, you have anything to add to that?
No, I think with pretty much covered all of that.
Okay.
I'm
Thank-
excited about getting to the next step.
Yes. Understanding IEP components, knowing your role, and supporting student success. We're going to talk a little bit about IEPs here, okay? We'll talk a little bit about knowing what your role is in implementing that IEP. And then we're going to talk a little bit about student success and about accommodation modifications and progress monitoring things, okay? So first and foremost, well, let's go back. Go back. All right, here's what I want you to do on your paper. I want you to write. I want you to think in a silo on your own. Don't cheat. Okay? These tables are conducive to cheating. Don't look at your neighbor's paper yet. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down what you think an IEP is. What's your definition of an IEP? Break it down. Write it down. Do not cheat. I'm watching you. Ellen, I'm watching you.
Ellen, look at my paper.
April. Oh, here's Tammy back here. That's my last name.
Uh-oh, Sammy.
My favorite teacher in the world, her name's Tammy. My second favorite teacher in the world, Brenda. Third, Dion. Fourth, Anita Archer. Anita Archer. Now, teacher talk, you're working with a group. Why am I leaning in and looking? Why am I leaning? I'm asking a question. Why am I leaning in and looking? I'm nosy. I'm nosy. I got some nosy neighbors. Look at my window. I'm leaning and looking because I'm checking for understanding. Are you getting it? Do I need to scaffold it? Do I need to break it down? If everybody's got the right definition, we don't need to talk about it anymore. You see what I'm saying? So checking for understanding often and getting your kids to respond. Education is not a spectator sport. Even though you're sitting in a chair and I'm lording over you and I'm talking a lot, you have to be giving me some stuff back. Okay, let's go. What's yours?
It's a piece of paper specific to individual children. It can inform the staff about a child who may have special needs, someone who
Okay.
may have medication that they have to take
Oh,
throughout
yeah, it's got all
school.
kinds of stuff in it, doesn't it? You're hitting it. You're doing a great job with it. What about you, Becky?
It is modification to instruction for each individual child.
Okay. All right. Do you always modify instruction?
No.
We're going to talk about accommodation modification here in a second. We talked about it in the last session. What's the difference between accommodation modification? Not to put you on the spot.
No, it's fine.
Think about
Well, not a whole lot. What?
Here's the one thing.
Yeah.
Accommodation is a tool
Right.
that gives you access to the learning. The same learning.
Okay.
A modification changes what's expected to be learned. You see the difference?
I do.
So those sometimes in school we interchange those, right?
Yeah.
So the difference. And there's a place on your IEP for an accommodation and a modification. Typically, modification of what's going to be learned
It's changed.
is only for students that have the most severe disabilities. We have alternate standards. We have alternate testing for students that have the most severe disabilities. That's 1% of your school. Okay, 1% of your population, I should say, right? Right, Maria, pop me on the head, correct me there, right? So, what else? What you have?
Goals, needs for learning, the level of learning that they're at.
Yes. Goals and needs for learning. That's it. It's got goals. What else does it have? Who can tell me something different? Who had something different out of the group? Who will volunteer?
Tells us disability.
Yeah, it does. It identifies the disability. Yeah, it does. What about that first section? You all looked at an IEP? What about that first section where it talks about present levels? Now listen, I'm gonna tell you something. If you're not looking at IEPs, you need to be looking at IEPs, okay? You need to know what's in those
Our
goals.
school guards those IEPs, that's why I'm totally confused, because I've been you asked about.
Well, we're gonna educate you the next little bit here.
Thank you so much.
So, present levels tell us exactly where a kid is functioning. That's what it's supposed to do, okay? That first part of the IEP is supposed to tell us, here's the kid's math grade level. Here's where they can get math. Here's their reading level. Here's their lexile. Here's how many words they can read in a minute. Here's how many comprehension questions they can answer in a minute. Here's how many comprehension questions they can answer. Here's how they do choosing the main idea and the details. That's what it tells us. That's what it's supposed to be telling us, right? So where you come in is you're going to be on the back side of that, and you're going to understand. You've got to understand where the kid is. You got to know where they're functioning. Okay. And so IEPs have that, and then they have special factors like sometimes you have kids that have Braille, that need Braille because they're vision impaired. You have students that have behavior difficulties, so you got to do some special things for them behavior. You have some kids that have calculators. They need assistive technology to make progress on their goals. Are you thinking about it now? Then you got those annual goals. It says something like, by given a 4th grade reading passage, Johnny will read and answer questions at 90% on 4 out of 5 trials with 90% accuracy as evaluated by a frequency count weekly. That gets all 6 components of it. The whole idea is you need to look at that verb in those goals. You need to ask, what are the verbs in those goals? That's the action part. That's how I'm going to read and answer questions. I'm going to write. I'm going to orally tell you. It's something you can hear. It's something you can see. It's something you can count. And it's something you can time. It's an action. Okay? And so the actions, when you're working with kids with disabilities, the actions are the things that you got to practice. Those are the things that you practice on with your kids and you give them feedback on. Okay? So you really got to be able to break that thing down and say, okay, if we're working on reading, what's the reading problem? The present level should tell you. Is it reading fluency? Is it phonics? Does the kid need help with learning to sound words out and make links between letters and sounds? What is the issue? You need to know what the issues are if you're going to support them and teach them, right? You need to know what they are. Okay? So that's your role right there. Let's see what else is in the presentation. I'm not even sure what's in here. This is my
We've been training all week.
14th presentation this week. I'm kidding. It's not that many. 13. Individualized education program. Look here. Look at your definition. Compare your definition. And talk to your neighbor about your definition for a second. What did you have that she didn't have? What did you have?
I just said that sometimes it could be medical related.
Okay.
Yeah.
Share with one another. Share. Keep sharing. All right, let's pull together. Did I do that with you? Here's one thing you can do with your kids. When you want to talk to one another, why do they have y'all talk to one another? Sharing. What you learn? You learn from one another?
Yep.
Yeah. So now you all can write a combined one, and I bet it's a little bit more definitive about what an IEP is, right? You've heard me talk about it. You've talked about it. You've written about it on your own. You've shared. That's a powerful tool right there. Okay. And what I was about to tell you is when you got kids, like you got kids 3 or 4, and you tell them to talk to one another, you got to get them back, right? Because they like to talk. And they like to talk about things other than what you're supposed to be talking about, right? So one of the things that we use, and I learned this from Doug Smith because he's good with behavior. Anytime you're going to do that, you got a big group, just raise your hand and have them raise their hand. And as they're raising their hand, tell them to close their mouth. Right? So raise your hand. Every time I raise my hand, we're going to come to order. I want you talking to one another though. Look, education, learning is not a spectator sport. It's all about how many responses can I get from you in the next minute, right? The next 5 minutes. Now, here's what the presentation says. It's a personalized roadmap for each student's educational journey. What in the world? That must have been midnight when I put that on there, right? That don't tell you anything, right? What it tells you is it is a contract. It is this. It is a contract. It's protected under IDEA. It's created by the admission. It's a contract between you and the parents and the student about what you're going to work on, how you're going to close their gaps. Because every kid that has an IEP has a disability that's verified, that's been tested, and it's been shown that they're far behind their peers. They're far enough behind their peers that they need something special. And that special is those goals. And though you're going to work on those goals to close those gaps. You're going to work on those goals to close those gaps, not only in academics, reading, math, and writing, but you're also going to work on those goals to close functioning issues. How many of you seen kids that can't control their impulses?
Yeah.
That's me, right? Brenda's saying, I see him every day at work. How many of you work with kids that have issues with planning and organization? They come to your class and they perpetually do not have a pencil, right? Or whatever, right? They come to your class, they can't find their homework, right? They can't set goals. They can't remember things. Will you all help me remember to talk to you about remembering things at the end of this presentation? Because I'm old. I really need to talk to you about that, okay? But we'll save that for a minute. Those are executive functioning skills. We also have to teach social skills. Our guru in law, her name's Teresa Collins. Brenda and I work with her. She's like Brenda's sister. Anytime Brenda calls her, she answers. She answers for me most of the time, but she answers every time for this lady, right? So call her up and she says, hey, you guys realize the federal government expects you now to teach social skills to kids because the parents don't do it. That's kind of what she says. Okay, that's not how we would say it to parents, but you understand that though? They come to school, they don't know how to act, right? So we have to teach them how to act. Yeah, especially if they have an IEP, they have a right to be taught how to act now. The federal government says so. Okay, so that's what the IEP entails. It entails behavior, reading, math, and writing, function, memory, being on task, changing behavior. That's all it is. Anything else?
They just got to say yes.
Okay.
We just have to remember that we have the whole child. We're there for the whole child. Whatever is going on with them. And if we can't teach them to behave, we can't teach them to learn. They got to be structured. They have to understand structure and behavior before they can even learn to do anything.
Okay, so forgot what I was doing. So the ARC team. Now, the ARC team, a lot of times you're the paraeducator. You typically don't go to ARC meetings, right? They don't ask you to do that, right? But you need to know what the results of those are. Okay, so you need to be nosy, like she said. Are you nosy? Yes, I'm nosy. I need to know what the results of that meeting was. I need to know how to be able to help my child, my student, right? I need to know what went on in there. Okay, and so the student participates when age appropriate. The general and special ed teachers work together to look at the curriculum and see where's the kid currently functioning, and what are we going to plan as activities that are special for that kid to overcome those those barriers. And then you got your related service provider, speech, OT, PT. Your speech, that is a specialized. Maybe the kid has articulation issues. You got the kid that has stuttering. You got a kid that can't get can't do the R's. Can't has troubles with blends or whatever, they work special with them, right? And then you got your OTs, and that's all about fine motor stuff, right? Your manipulation of a pencil. And then you got your PT, and that's about jumping and hopping and doing your gross motor movements, right? And so, or the gate's off, or the child has difficulty with, needs assistance, navigating the stairs or whatever. So that's huge. And then you got your parents and your guardians. They should be at the meeting, and they should have input. And you should be, be careful with your communication with parents, because they sometimes you got to be on the same page with your teacher, right? With the instructor. You got to make sure that you're not undermining anything that's going on with that teacher, right? And then vice versa, they need to make sure they're not undermining you, right? Had a situation not too long ago when I was director, whereby the teacher wasn't really doing a great job, and the instructional assistant thought they were going to help, they were going to try to help. They videoed what was going on. Please don't do that, okay? Yeah, confidentiality, all kinds of things. So we had to go through that whole process of undoing that. Thankfully, it didn't get to a fever pitch, and we didn't go to court over it and all that kind of stuff. But I just want to caution you about the appropriateness of your professionalism. You're a professional. You're a paraprofessional, okay? And we at KVEC value what you do. We organize this for you, okay? And so I want to caution you about that. So make sure that you, in your communication with parents, that it's all on up and up. Don't ever in education talk about another kid to a parent. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Like I had that rule when I coached basketball. I coached high school basketball for 29 years, and one of the things one of my rules was, myself and my assistant coaches, you never talk to a parent about somebody else's kid, right? Brenda does a real good job in confidentiality. If you're new, or if you want an update on that, you probably should go to her session after lunch, because she talks about all those things. Okay, so I'm not going to go any deeper with that. We go on the next slide. So you support implementation. Your role is to support implementation of the IEP. Therefore, you need to know what the goals are. You need to know what the movable parts are, which are the verbs and the actions that the kids are taking. So you're supporting the instruction, you're implementing the accommodations, and you're monitoring progress. Those are big pieces, right? That should be your role. All in support of what? Learning and more learning, okay? So let's talk about this first one. How do we support instruction? We have to know how to differentiate, okay? We have to know our kids. We have to know how they learn best, and we have to plan our instruction around that, okay? Under the help of the teacher, we should be able to look at those goals, and we should be looking at that specially designed instruction piece, and it should tell us what strategies to include, okay, with the particular goal that you're working on. Now, how many of you have phones? Y'all have phones? Whole lot. I want to see them. They're illegal in school. They're not illegal in school. All right. Now, the reason I had you hold your phone up, how many of you used how many of you used the Google? Used the Google? How many of you used the Amazon?
Oh, I got
Stop it. Stop it, okay? Stop it. Stop using the Amazon. I have a sign in my yard that says hide packages from husband. Okay? How many of you use ChatGPT?
Oh, yeah.
Who said, oh yeah?
Me.
Are you a cheater?
No, I get ideas, and that's the trick.
It's a tool, isn't it?
It is a tool.
It's a tool. I'm with you.
Because
Look here.
you can't verbatim it, because they will.
I am a huge, listen, I do a session on artificial intelligence and the IEP.
Yes.
So I'm going to show you a little something here, okay? I just want to demonstrate here really quickly. I'll tell you this. In 2022, 2 years after the pandemic, we were just coming out of that terrible time, when school was just like crazy. All right, we're here, everywhere. Who was working during that time? Yeah, a few of you, yeah. And we came out in 22. In 22, they came out with artificial intelligence. We started, and it didn't really catch on. But guess who gets that first? Who knows more of it? The student. Hey, you should see my granddaughter. She's 7. She's telling her mother the other night how important it is for her to have access to YouTube. And why YouTube's making her smarter. Because she does. She uses some big words, doesn't she, Brenda? She really does. She calls me Shark. Okay? I'm Granddad Shark. Because I sang that Shark song to her a lot when she was little and it stuck. She lives in Arizona. And she started school yesterday. Y'all complaining about starting school next week? She started yesterday. 2nd grade. And so she's telling me all about this, and so I'm like, I gotta get with this ChatGPT stuff. I gotta figure out what's going on here with this, right? And you may have preconceived notions about it. And this is what I'm gonna say to you. If you're unethical, you're unethical. You gotta teach your kids not to be unethical. You gotta teach your kids social skills. You gotta teach them to be trustworthy. We gotta teach them to be gentle and kind. And to do the right thing. That's part of our education, right? Hard stuff to do. Hard stuff to do. Because, if you do all that teaching, they go home, and the parent undoes it in 5 seconds, right? But the chat GPT can help you with IEPs, okay? So, and I can show you right here, it's on your phone. It will plan anything you want it to plan for you. Now, here's the downside of it. About 20% of the answers it gives you can be messed up. They call them hallucinations. Okay? So you got to check out everything that you put in there, right? You got to make sure it's good with the IEP guidance document that we operate under, which is our guidance for IEPs, and all kinds of good stuff like that. But I'm going to put it up over here, and I'm going to show you, because we're talking about one of your roles is to support instruction. Okay? Now, what's a goal that you know of that you could be working on? Anybody?
Last year was potty training.
That's what I was getting ready to say, potty training.
I love it.
We have a set of twins that are severely autistic, nonverbal. They're 5 now. We've had them in preschool since they started. And the only way that we communicate with them is just that we just know. They're like their own children at this point. So this year, a plan is to get them to communicate, like with whether it be pictures or whether it be something iPad or.
So they're not using a communication system yet?
No.
Do they work with sign language? I mean, we've had success, I know, in preschool with sign language when kids are not verbal, they actually can learn.
No.
No.
Nothing. Mom, I won't go into it. Mom thinks they're geniuses, and it's just been it's just.
Okay.
But that's my plan. That's my goal this year is to, and she, whether she does it at home. I don't know.
Watch this thing work. So what I put in here was a prompt, okay? What I put was a prompt that said potty training. Tell me the steps to teach students that have nonverbal communication. Do me a goal based on the Kentucky. It don't matter what you say, as long as you get the keywords in there, right? Do me a goal based on the Kentucky IEP guidance document for a 6-year-old with autism. Now, did you see how quickly that created that for you? Huh? Look here. It says right up here at the top, here are the steps. Potty training for non-verbal children with autism requires consistency, clear structure, and visual supports. Okay? So we're to implement this goal. Can the child stay dry for at least an hour? Here's your readiness check. Do they show physical signs of squatting, hiding, tucking? Do they give you some clues? Do you know what those clues are, right? Are they able to sit on the toilet for 1 to 2 minutes? Can you create a routine whereby you schedule toileting every 30 to 60 minutes initially, and then you pull back from that gradually, right? Use a consistent phrase or visual cue. A PEX card with a toilet training visual is a place to start. I'm not telling you that this is the answer. I'm just saying it's giving you some viable things to consider, right? Use visual supports. When you are not able to communicate with kids, you got to figure out a way to communicate with kids. It's the most basic part of education. We said that a minute ago. The most basic part of learning. You can't teach them anything unless they can understand what you're trying to get them to do, right? And they can make you understand what they need to do. So the back and forth has to be developed. So visual supports, you use a first then board. What that means is you say this is what's going to happen first, and then this is going to happen, right? Is that correct, Brenda?
Yes.
Yes. And then, so first potty, then iPad. First potty, then iPad. Okay? And then potty schedule visual. You put the visual up. You talk to the kid about it. You have it prominently displayed somewhere where they can see it.
Actually, candy works too.
What's that?
Chocolate candy works just as
Oh,
good as
yeah,
iPad.
chocolate candy. You have to find out what makes people work, right? Like for me, it's soup, beans, and cornbread, right? Okay. And so, all right, so a visual sequence strip showing each step. Then you got a communication system that you're in an AAC, that's an alternative, augmentative communication system, okay? Or a PEX, a picture exchange communication system, okay? Where they have pictures and they can point to that picture and tell you they got to go to the potty, right? Reinforcement, give immediate specific praise. Remember, you are the one that you're going to model it, you're going to let them practice it, you're going to give them feedback. It might have to be visual feedback. You got to think about it. Am I getting the point across? Are they understanding? You cannot assume anything with a student that has communication difficulties. You cannot assume, okay? You have to make sure. And then prompting and fading. Begin with physical hand over hand prompting, then fade. And then the accident handling. Do not push or overreact. Calmly clean up and say next time potty and toilet. Use the visual card, okay? You've got me. My point here is this. If you can dream it up, I ask it for, look here, I ask it for a goal that's specific to Kentucky. Now this thing's a little smarter because I've been working it to death. Okay? That's the way generative AI works. That's why it's called generative AI. The more you put in that's correct, the more correct it is. Does that make sense? And so I put in Kentucky IEP guidance document a long time ago. So in my machine, in my personal chat GPT, it understands that. You may have to put that in first and say, I'm a teacher in Kentucky. I work with kids with disabilities. And you build it. You build its knowledge base for yourself. But you have to put that Kentucky IEP guidance document in because that's the one we operate under. Okay? And for an IEP goal, it uses the A, B, C, D, E, F model. That's an audience. The audience is the student's name. The behavior is that thing, that action verb. What are they doing? Are they reading? Are they writing? Are they solving a math problem? What are they doing? Okay, that's the behavior. Remember, you got to be able to see it, count it, hear it, or time it. Okay, and then the C is the conditions under which you set up the action to review it. You're going to take data on it later, so you want to see how many times the kid's successful. That's the whole idea. So you set it up and you say, under these conditions, we're going to monitor this, right? And this says, when prompted or independently during a scheduled toileting time, Johnny will request to use the toilet using a visual cue. So the student will request to use the toilet using a visual cue or AAC device when prompted and or independently during scheduled toileting times in 4 out of 5 opportunities as measured by staff data collection over 3 consecutive weeks. Now, Brenda's sitting over there and her wheels are turning. She's saying this thing's not exactly right. So we have to build some rightness into it, okay? How would you change that last part there, Brenda? 4 out of 5 opportunities don't really give us a criteria, does it? It gives us a degree, but it doesn't give us a criteria. We have to go back to the D part here and say, as a teacher, we have to know, That's wrong, right? We have to build that in. So you can't just depend on it entirely. You have to check it out, okay? You have to do a little research on your own, all right? And so we would say something like, they're going to get 90% of all opportunities. They're going to get 90% out of 10 times. They're going to get 9 times right. You're not going to say 9 out of 10. You're just going to say 90% on 4 out of 5 trials. 4 out of 5 opportunities. That is the degree, but it's not in the IEP guidance document. It says degree criterion, and the criterion is 90%. So it left that part out. So we got some work to do with Mr. ChatGPT. He needs to be, up his game a little bit. But we help him with that. So we would put in next. Do you realize? Watch this. Do you realize that we need a percentage? Do you realize that we need a percentage or criteria to be correct in the A, B, C, D, E, somebody said F model? See what it says? You're absolutely right.
Let me get that for you.
It must be clearly defined like 80% on 4 out of 5 trials. You see what I'm saying? So it's not always correct, but it's almost correct. And it's almost a great tool to give you ideas to help your kids. You see what I'm saying? So if you can think it up, you can use this machine. Free is the word. The student will request to use the toilet. Now, I don't really like the way it's written because it doesn't follow the model. We usually put C first, then the A, then the B, then the D, then the E, and then the F. It also is a little wonky around the evaluation tool. Teacher collected data. We want our teachers to be a little more specific. We need to know what type of method of measurement are you using. Okay? So let's see if it'll do that for us.
He's becoming a guru in this.
I love it. It's been a godsend. When I return something in, to school, we have to run it through, programs and be able
Oh, they got all kinds of detection devices out there now. Believe me.
to be really careful.
Okay. Look what it did. I'm sorry about the smallness of the print, but I'll try to capture it for you. So you're absolutely right. And thank you for pointing that out. In Kentucky's ABCDEF model, you got to have the degree criteria like 80%. And then I asked that next question. I don't think I got down to it. What method of measurement? I don't know how I went back there. So the method of measurement, then it puts the exact one that you need to. Every time you're doing progress monitoring, you're either going to do one of 3 things. Now you might want to know this because they're going to ask you to do some progress monitoring. The further we go, the more you're going to have to be able to collect data, average data, and report on data. So when we say this big word, frequency count or event recording, it simply means this is how many times they got it right out of how many times it was attempted. Okay? So it's a percentage. You're always going to turn it into a percentage. It's something you can count, you can see, you can die. So if I give you a test on reading comprehension questions, or if I give you a 5 reading comprehension quiz, how many did you get out of 5? Okay? Now I'm going to put all those together and make an average, right? I gave it to you 4 times last week. You got 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5. Your average is 4. You see what I'm saying? That's a frequency count. Now the other 2 types of data that they might ask you to help with is how long does the student stay on task? It's a duration recording. Duration. You know what duration is, right? Duration means how long something lasts. You put down when the kid started with the pen, and you have to define what on task means. Like The pencil's down and we're writing. The head's down on the paper, we're reading. Okay? Record when they started and record when they stopped. The difference between is the duration. The kids stayed on task for 2 minutes. We do that over 4 days. 2 minutes today, 3 minutes tomorrow, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. What is that? 4 and 5 is 9, 3 and 2 is 5, 14, 4 into 14 is what? What's 4 and 14? 3? His average is 3 point something, right? So that's how you do that progress monitoring. The other one is latency. How many of you seen, I give you, I told you to write your name a long time ago. Now it's been 20 minutes. That's the latency. You give a prompt, how long does it take the kid to get started? That's latency. That's the 3 types of data that you're responsible for on an IEP. Okay? 3 types of data. That's all. That's all. Everything can be turned, if you're doing a checklist, you can number the checklist. How much of the checklist did you get right? You can turn it into a percentage. That's a frequency count. Or either you can time how long you stay on task, or time how long it takes you to get started on task. Those 3 things, okay? So we've covered that, and they went ahead and put event recorded in here, and that was exactly right. It says by the end of the IEP period. That's implied in Kentucky. Do you know how long an IEP lasts? You guys know how long an IEP lasts? 365 days, and you got to write a new one. You have to have an annual review. Now, what goes into the annual review? What you did with the kid on the goals, and how you were able to take data, and how you were to report that this is how much progress they made. It's the only thing that keeps you out of hot water, and your teachers out of hot water. You want to support your special ed teachers and your general education teachers? You have to help them take data. You need to get your head wrapped into those 3 pieces, right? Understand percentages, understand how to come up with an average, understand what you're looking for, what's the definition of that behavior, what's the action that kid's supposed to be taking. It's all in this A, B, C, D, E, F model. The student, what he's going to do is his behavior, how we're going to look at it's the circumstance. D is the degree criteria is 80%. It's 4 out of 5 trials. Now, if you see an IEP goal that has, we're going to do it for the next 14 days, what's wrong with that? First of all, you're not going to be in school for 14 straight days. Second of all, who comes to school 14 days in a row nowadays? Not even the teachers. Right? Watch them smile. You guys know I'm telling the truth, because my wife now is she does 5th grade ESS. You know what that is? Daytime ESS, Extended School Services. So she's like a tutor in those 5th grade classes. That's how I know about Main ID. I hear it all the time. She drives me crazy. So when you are working, you realize that lots of times when you're working as a sub, they what so-and-so's going on an extended holiday. Now, we're on break next week, but they scheduled a vacation that's going to run in, so the teacher's not going to be here for the next 12 days. Can you sub for her? It happens now, right? People don't put a premium on. So the one thing I say, be professional, be confidential, and if you don't know about confidentiality, you need to pay attention to that. It's going to get you in trouble. Go to Brenda's session, go to Doug's session, and here's the other thing. Be professional. Show up. Be professional in your dress. Be professional in the way you talk to kids. Create relationships. Let them know you care. They're not going to learn from you until you create a relationship with them. Be appropriate in your relationship. Don't be inappropriate. If you have not had your head in the sand, you have heard about House Bill 181. Huh? Don't be on Facebook talking to kids. Okay? I don't know how else to say it. I mean, I know that's oversimplified. Your staff, when you go to school, they're going to tell you what you can do and what you can't. Hopefully, your folks are going to educate you up, but you need to be in tune with that. You know what's appropriate and what's not. Okay? I teach a college class at Alice Lloyd College. It's a rival of you. Ms. Cumber?
You would use
So,